Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm Mike Falk. I'm your host today.
Good morning.
Welcome. Moment of silence. There's just too many mass shootings to count. You get numb to them. The common denominator is a high-capacity gun. All right, thank you. Okay, our speakers today are Scott Hottenstein. Did I say that right, Scott? Hottenstein? Hottenstein, and Stephanie Vanos from Democratic Public Education Caucus of Florida and Help Out Public Education. So, if you're ready, let's go for it.
Hey, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Let me get out of the glare. How are you doing today? Great, yeah. You ask a Democrat that, and it's like, right? After the election, not even a month ago. But there's been a lot of pain and angst about the 2022 results. We're going to touch on that. But more importantly, we're going to do something about that. The way people who have bragged to me about the elections in Florida compared to like the national elections, because the national results were pretty good, right? How many of you ever saw the movie The Green Mile? Yeah, so I think Florida was the Michael Duncan Clark character, who sucked all the evil out of people and then got executed at the end. So with all the MAGA types and the Ron DeSantis loving people moving in 1,000 per day to Florida, I think we actually provided a margin in other places in America. So I'm Scott Hottenstein. I go by Mr. H. Just because that's easier than Hottenstein. A little bit about me, just real quick. I was in the Navy for 24 years, graduated from the Naval Academy, went on to a 20-year career. I had command, served overseas. I retired, turned down 6-figure jobs in defense contracting to become a middle school civics teacher. I got the job after subbing at my own son's school, but I had applied for jobs. I was applying for jobs all throughout Hillsborough County. That's where I'm from, and I couldn't get hired. I went to like six, 7 different interviews, and they were like, "Wow, you're really impressive, but we don't know how you'll relate to the kids because you'll think it's the Navy and order them around." 6 years later, I was a Teacher of the Year finalist in Hillsborough County. Top 5 teachers, 700 school districts. I ran for office twice, once for school board, once for state rep. I lost both times, but in 2020, when I ran for state rep, I ran in a very Republican area. I think y'all are familiar with that. And I was one of the best Democrats statewide. Like, my results were better in my race in 2020 than in the blue wave election in 2018. So I've learned a lot about how politics works, what messaging connects with Floridians, and I was elected president of the Democratic Public Education Caucus of Florida in June of 21, and this has been my main focus since then. I no longer teach full-time. That's a whole other story we don't have time for. My principal lied to me. But I do substitute teach. I taught yesterday back in a civics classroom. So that's a little bit about me. Stephanie, you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? No. Okay, can you hear me now? Yes. Stephanie Vanos. I'm the Vice President of the Democratic Public Education Caucus of Florida and the chair of our new political committee, Help Out Public Education. Unlike my friend Scott here, who is most happiest when he is standing on a stage in front of a big room full of people, I am not at my happiest when I'm standing on stage in a room full of people. But what I hate more than public speaking is what is happening to our public schools and our public education in the state. So that's why I'm here. Just to give you a little bit of background about me, I grew up in a family where the value of high quality, free public education was instilled in me from a very young age. My mom grew up going to public schools just outside of Chicago and became a public school teacher. And my dad went to public schools in Miami-Dade County. And despite leaving home at age 16 and living in cars and couches, managed to graduate from high school, worked his way through USF, and then got a scholarship to go to law school in Notre Dame. And so I grew up just sort of understanding that having a high quality, free public education, that was the way you could change your circumstances in your life. And I went to public school, K through 12, as did my sister and brother, went to Northwestern for college, and then went to law school at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Found myself somehow in Orlando, worked at a large law firm there for a couple of years. And then when my second daughter was born, I had the opportunity to stay home with my kids and took it. I now have 3 daughters. They're all in public school, one in elementary, one in middle, one in high school. So I am in the car a lot throughout the day. Everyone has a different schedule. But once my oldest daughter started elementary school, started to pay attention to the education referendums and how public schools here in Florida are funded as compared to Illinois, which is where I was from. And then started to get involved just in various ways. I was part of the recess moms group when my daughter was in kindergarten to make sure that our elementary kids had recess. I've advocated for responsible technology use in elementary schools, volunteered for book fairs and student advisory committees and running club and all of those sorts of things. And then last year was on the reapportionment committee for Orange County Public Schools to redraw the district lines for school board members. And then also a couple of years ago, this is my 6th year in the League of Women Voters for Orange County, and I co-chair the education committee, so I've learned a lot through the league and through the wonderful people there. But decided last year that I wanted to step it up a little bit and really advocate more for our schools, and then also understanding that we can advocate all we want, but if we don't elect the right people, nothing is going to change. So joined the board for the caucus last January, and that's why I'm here.
And I'm gonna scoot back over so we don't squeal, but hey, it's kind of funny, like any soccer fans in here? So y'all are giving up a lot, like I'm dying not being able to watch USA Netherlands. I was hoping USA would win the group so they played tomorrow, not today, but that's how much I want to be here. And I gotta tell you, Steph, look, like, you gotta give her a round of applause. We said we meet here at 9, and at 8:55, I was still on the way. She's like, "Are you ghosting me? Where are you?" I'm like, I'm gonna be there. So, yeah. And this is like our first time really in person doing this. Next slide. Yeah. So, the Democratic Public Education Caucus of Florida. We've only been around since 2019. And a bunch of people, and it came out of Polk County, oddly enough. A school board member there and the state committee woman said, we should have a specialized caucus that addresses public education issues. Well, 2019, we got organized. A lot of people who helped organize it were doing other things. I was on the founding board, but I was gearing for my state rep run. So, the officers who were elected were kind of inexperienced in Democratic Party politics, and then COVID came. So it was hard to get organized. I was elected in 2021 in June, kind of coming out of COVID, and it was like building the caucus up from scratch. We're focused on messaging and advocacy, and we're really focused at the school board level and state legislature level. We haven't stepped up to the federal level. That's a whole nother can of worms. And we played a role in 2022, even though we were new. We had an endorsement process. We're the only caucus that went perfect 8 for 8 in our primary endorsements. And that was from governor on down to state rep and school board, where we kind of endorsed, we're Dem versus Dem. We picked the pro-public education Dem, and they all won. Thank you. And then during the Democratic Leadership Bloom, Charlie Crist presented his public education plan during our caucus meeting. So that was kind of a big moment. And we're gonna try to bring some of his great stuff in his public education plan to the legislature, even though he wasn't elected. We're working on recruiting new members, starting new chapters, local action networks, because we need people to advocate for public education. Next slide.
So Hope was formed just 2 months ago, really, and this was in response to conversations with candidates that we had throughout this past cycle. We had the opportunity to, I think we visited about a third of the counties throughout the state of Florida this, really in the last 6 months. And really just took the time to meet with local Democratic clubs and meet with the candidates, school board candidates, and some of the state leg candidates as well. And just talking to them, find out, how is that campaign going? What were they finding when they were talking to people? And really just trying to understand what was happening at the local level in each county. And in talking to them, we realized that there was an organization gap, there was a funding gap, and maybe that was something that we could help out with. So that was sort of part of our reason for forming. So our political committee is primarily focused on fundraising, and the main goal, I think, is really to help these candidates, to fund them early so that they can get started, and we can address the needs of, we can provide the resources that we have discovered that they need from talking to them this past summer. And then also, we intend to fund raises to support the campaign incubation, voter education, small county program, and NPA targeting. With respect to voter education, one thing that we learned was that a very high number of NPA voters did not realize that they could vote in the August elections for nonpartisan races. So they didn't know that they could vote for school board candidates, didn't know they could vote for judges. And we even went to some DEC meetings where some of the people who were attending the meeting were not aware of that. So we need to just do a better job of educating voters. And another thing is just knowing that a lot of the school board races are over in August. A lot of them aren't even making it to November. So you need to get out there and vote in that August election. And then small county program, we've identified a few small counties where just we think some additional resources could really help to flip their school boards and help the school boards become more pro-public education. And then finally, NPA targeting, sort of what I mentioned earlier, but really identifying the NPA candidates who would support our public education policies and who are for pro-public education and would vote for those candidates. So really identifying those people so that candidates can target them. Next slide, please.
So what went wrong? We've actually updated this slide because we've gotten some feedback from candidates we supported who thought we were talking about them when we say we were totally and utterly unprepared.
Scott, this is my slide.
What?
This is my slide.
You said you. Okay, go ahead.
This is my slide. I'm prepared to do one slide, and it is this slide. So this is the slide that I will do. You can do the next slide. Okay, so we were totally and thoroughly unprepared. Some people we've spoken to have wrestled with this comment. But what we mean by it, and I think most people would agree, this isn't to say that every candidate was unprepared, or this isn't to say that every individual or every group didn't do their job, because there were lots of great candidates and lots of great individuals and groups who did a good job. But I think we would probably all agree that as a party, we could have used a lot more organization at the top level. We could have used a lot more funding and just transparency. I think part of the issue with school board races is school board candidates haven't typically looked to maybe party leaders in the past for help. It became very clear in this election cycle that these school board candidates were up against something much different than they were in 2018 and before that. So we need to be prepared for the reality that that's probably going to be the case from now on. And kind of going along with that, the 2018 incumbents were not ready for 2022 elections. There were some great candidates who won seats in 2018 and then came to 22. And again, sort of as I alluded to earlier, we're just unprepared for the political climate. And you know, we had a governor who was getting personally involved in school board races. That really hadn't happened before. We were coming out of a legislative session that was really passed a lot of anti-public education laws, and it created huge culture wars and just really took over the narrative. We had a, you know, kind of dark money, conservative money funded Moms for Liberty groups who were screaming about parental rights, which when you hear the word parental rights, who wants to be against parental rights? You know, we were working with a framework that was really difficult to respond to. And some of the, and so I don't think that they were ready in the same way. No candidates, no money, no staff, no volunteers. It's not good. There were uncontested races that we had no Democrats, no pro-public education candidates running in the school board races. No money, again, you know, there were millions of dollars that were dumped into school board races from conservative PACs, from other candidates, and we were not prepared to respond to that. And I don't want to make it sound like money solves everything, because we needed better organization, we needed more volunteers and other things, but money sure does help. No staff, and no staff, we had no staff at the upper level, we had no one at the top sort of looking over, coordinating school board races throughout the state, and these school board candidates themselves did not have the staff that they needed to really compete in this kind of climate. And then no volunteers. This was the number one thing that we heard as we talked to candidates across the state, which is kind of good, because I feel like this is low-hanging fruit. We can work on recruiting volunteers over the next 2 years to help our candidates. But you know, people didn't have volunteers to knock doors. They didn't have people to send texts. They didn't have people to sign wave. They didn't have anyone to sort of coordinate a field plan for them. And I think part of the reason for this was the political climate. You know, one thing that we learned as we were talking to volunteer groups and different clubs was that there was real hesitation, real reluctance to be out there knocking on doors in this kind of climate when you didn't know who was going to answer the door. You didn't know if someone going to be screaming at you about "don't say gay" or you know, or whatever the issue was. And people, you know, not afraid to make their strong opinions known. And I think that people were afraid of intimidation. Okay, no data systems, field plans, or NPA strategy. So one thing I've learned this in the past couple of months is there are some like data gods out there. There are people out there within the Democratic Party who, and they may even be in this room, who are pulling really great information about NPA voters who might be left-leaning or just have you know, targeted different groups throughout the state. This information is not being disseminated as it needs to be to local candidates running. So we need to do a better job at that. And then also field plans. If you don't have good data, you don't have a good strategy, and you don't have good field plans. Okay, too long to get a consistent winning message. Our state party used they called it surveys, I think, to identify messages that resonated with people and voters throughout the state. They released their partial results in mid-June, and they released the full results in mid to end of July. School board races were over 4 weeks after that. So we need to understand what sort of messaging resonates with people, and we need to do it much, much earlier. Lack of awareness and urgency, both voter and organizational. I've kind of talked about this, but again, that lack of awareness among voters that those school board races are decided in August, and that NPA voters can vote in those August elections for the nonpartisan races. Candidate intimidation. Politics is kind of gross, I've also learned in the past year, but the level of intimidation that school board candidates were facing this year in steer tactics was just unbelievable and outrageous. I mean, we had candidates whose children were being targeted by their opponent's children on a school bus, such that they dropped out of the race. We had candidates who, his kids were playing outside in the front yard, and a Trump pickup truck came up, drove right up in their driveway while their kids were outside. They ultimately pulled out of the race. We had a candidate the coordinates to her house were posted on Nextdoor. She lived in a very red district. The coordinates to her house were posted on Nextdoor and on social media. 4 days later, she found a drone. Her husband's outside. A drone was flying over their home and following her husband outside. She also received some money from the FEA and some statewide groups, and never received a check in the mail. So we're not sure if there was like mail tampering going on, but there was some bad stuff. School board candidates in Sarasota called baby killer. I mean, and we need to do a better job about supporting our candidates so that they feel supported and that we don't lose good candidates because they don't think they're going to get the support that they need from the party and from the state. And then finally, didn't connect with the people. I think sometimes, I'm definitely guilty of this, but sometimes our party likes to get in the weeds and likes to, create messaging and talk about things in a way that the super engaged people really understand and relate to. But the average voter is not a super engaged person when it comes to politics. And so we need to really think about what kind of messages and what they care about. And I'll give you a quick example. In a district in Orange County, there was a Moms for Liberty candidate running for school board, and there was another pro-public education candidate running, and someone I know was working as his campaign manager. And she had no political experience. She was just a mom, and she was a former teacher, and she just really wanted to make sure that this Moms for Liberty did not get on our school board. And so she said, Stephanie, there's so many businesses in our neighborhood, and they have this Moms for Liberty sign in their, in the front of their business. And she said, but I got almost all of them to take the sign down. And I said, oh my gosh, how did you do that? Did you go in? Did you explain what Moms for Liberty is all about? She said, well, I went into the business and I asked to talk to the owner. And I said to the owner, how would you feel if someone came in who had no experience in your industry, no experience in a related industry, no professional experience, had never seen a budget before, had never managed people, and came in and wanted to take over your business? And the owner was like, no way. She said, well, just so you know, as a teacher, I'm disappointed that you would support this candidate because she has absolutely no experience. She's no experienced in education, no related experience, no professional experience, never looked at a budget, never managed a business, never managed people. And by the way, our school, Orange County Public Schools, has a $5 billion budget, over 200,000 students, 25,000 employees, and we need to make sure we have someone with experience. And so sometimes, it's just relating to common sense and to, people's pocketbook, and that makes a difference. So we just need to do a better job of understanding what is going to convince people to vote for our candidates. Next slide.
So now we gotta fix all that, and this is my slide, right?
Yes, you may go ahead.
Just wanna make sure. Look, we gotta fundraise early, which is why we're going around the state. You're not the only meeting that we're attending in December. Just because it takes time to fundraise. Next. We have to put that money in campaign recruiting, training, and incubation. Here's what I mean about that. We had a couple of great candidates. One that comes to mind, Brian Martin, he filed in Pinellas County. Business owner, dad, great guy. He filed in May. No political experience, would make an excellent school board member, but it's May. The election's in August, and we met with him, and he's like, I have no clue what I'm doing. So we need to find these candidates, get them in the race earlier, give them training, not just the candidates, but we put campaign because it's staff, it's volunteers. We gotta let everyone know what it's gonna take to win in 2024. Next, please. How many of you have used Vote Builder? Yeah, so Vote Builder is where candidates or DDCs or clubs go, and that has all of the data on voters. So if you're trying to go and convince a voter, vote for candidate A, there's a way, I won't bore you with the details, but when someone knocks on a door and says vote for candidate A, they were sent there based on the data in Vote Builder. Well, Vote Builder is controlled by the Florida Democratic Party. And I know this because I went through it. When I was a candidate, I said, can I have the data so I could go win some Democratic votes and probably help the party out? They're like, sure, if you pay us $800. So guess what? New candidates, especially like our lowest races, school board races, they don't know politics, they don't know about Vote Builder, and when they start out, they certainly don't have $800 to obtain the system. That's what we want to fundraise for. Find the candidates, tell them what they need, and then help them match some money to give them the seed money so that they can get into the field early, so that they can go knock on those doors. You can't knock on the doors if you don't have the data. Can't get the data unless you have the money to pay to FDP. We're also talking with FDP to lower or get rid of that cost because it just doesn't make sense. Next. NPAs. And I don't know if the DECs here were involved in that NPA data project, sending text messages out. Like, I found out about that at Leadership Blue when Dave Wax told me y'all were doing it. And I'm like, oh my God, like our school boards races are no partying, so where's this data? And we had to go and ask permission, and actually Dave had a, strong arm FDP to give us the data, but it didn't make it down to the candidates. We want to run a pro-public education text messaging program to identify those NPAs who do support public education, share that data statewide so that we're knocking on the right doors and getting them to the polls. Next. Messaging. We've gotten pretty good at finding out what messaging works. We visit all around the state. We've met with DC's clubs. We know that what works in Santa Rosa County, for example, is different than what works in Broward County, or Miami-Dade, or Hillsborough. But we have some poll-tested messaging points that can be adapted, and we share them with everyone. And we're just trying to get more of the good message distributed throughout the party, from everyone in this room all the way up to the FDP chair. Have you ever noticed that if something gets said on Fox News, that same day, your Republican neighbor is spouting the exact same talking point? It's like it's implanted in their brains. Now, I don't want to implant anything in your brains, but I want to share the winning messages with you. Next. We need a team of canvassers, and in case it helps recruit people, we came up with an acronym SPECTRE, if you're James Bond fans, Specialized Public Education Canvassing Team Ready and Enabled. And what we want is like a team of 20 or 40 people who are kind of like Steph and I. So that might be hard. Someone who will, hey, what are you doing this weekend? You want to drive 3 hours into Brevard County and knock on some doors? We got a good candidate. If we find those people, then we can help our candidates. Next. There are small counties up in the Panhandle that actually have a Democratic voter registration advantage. Now, there are reasons for that, but, and we're talking about counties with like less than 10,000 people, and Democrats make up more than 50%. Go spend a little money, get the right person elected. Here's how that makes the difference. once you're elected, it doesn't matter if you're in Columbia County or Miami-Dade County, you're a school board member. You joined the school board, the Florida School Board Association. And then that's kind of like the inner club where they talk about things and make decisions that the public doesn't really know about. If we get more of our people elected, we have more of our people in these organizations that are setting the tone for policies kind of outside the public eye. Next. Even our elected Dems don't necessarily know what to do with public education issues. We went up and we personally lobbied some senators who we knew personally and said, please, for the love of God, vote against exempting college presidential searches from the sunshine. That was one thing we could get done because it required a 2/3 vote and the Democrats had to vote if we stuck together. They're like, no, we hear it's better if we keep it out of the sunshine. So we had Dems who didn't understand the issue, and as a result, we have the new UF president, who is a Republican senator from Nebraska. And he was the one and only finalist. We told him. Next. And we gotta educate everyone, Dems, MPAs, timing and importance of school board elections. August. We're having a meeting with our party chair, Manny Diaz, and we started talking about Leadership Blue, which was held in July. And this was in May. And he was like, hey, I want to make Leadership Blue all about the elections in November. And like, we were like, and August. School board is in August. Yeah. So everyone needs to be educated on that. Next. Opposition research. In Polk County, there's a candidate who was elected who has self-reported 1 felony and 10 misdemeanor campaign finance violations. Like, it's you could look it up in Florida. He also had a social media post that was quite rude that dealt with a particular part of women anatomy. It's still up. In Brevard County, they elected a Moms for Liberty supported candidate who is under 2 investigations by the school district. One for lying on his application about never being arrested. The other, he's a test coordinator. He was caught on camera bringing tests into the teacher lounge and backdating the test date because he gave the test outside the test window. He got elected, first meeting, Brevard County fired their superintendent. He was the vote. So we need to do this oppo. Pasco County, guy got elected who doesn't live in the district. And they know. The court overturned it and said, we want to give the voters a choice. So we need to do better opposition research and then message on it and let people know who they're voting for. Next. And we want to protect our candidates and volunteers. So everything Stephanie talked about, we want to fix. Next. And keep going. So, click maybe twice more, 3 times more. So on the caucus side, we're going to be the gurus of messaging, of policy, of being up in Tallahassee and at school board meetings, advocating for public education. We're looking for members. We're looking to start chapters or like local action networks, someone who's keeping an eye on each county school board. I think one more. And we want canvassers. We want Spectre. That's what we're going to do over the next 2 years.
And on the
Everyone does.
And on the political committee side for Hope, we're really focused on the next 2 years on fundraising for everything we've talked about, for getting our candidates started early, for voter education, small counties, for candidate staff recruitment, training, and incubation, making sure candidates know early on what they need to do, getting them set up, getting them access to Van and Vote Builder and the data that they need early on. Data operations, so we know who's out there, we can target the right people, and we can develop smart strategies. And then the small county program, again, to look at those counties that do have Democratic advantage, and we can make some leeway there.
Can you click back real quick? And one thing I want to mention, you might be thinking like, why are you a caucus and a political committee? Well, state law says that the state even it's a statewide caucus, we're limited to $500 of electioneering per year. That's all we could spend or theoretically fundraise, $500 for the entire state of Florida. So we were helping candidates with things, and a Democrat who is a friend came up to me at one point and said, hey, I heard you're helping these candidates out with Vote Builder, and there's a tool called DEC. And do you realize that if the candidate you're helping didn't pay the $800 to FDP, you're in essence giving an in-kind donation, which exceeds how much you're allowed to spend per year, and the election police are gonna come arrest you. So we went and talked to legal counsel at FDP. They said, set up a political committee so that you don't get in trouble. So that's why there's two separate things here. Okay, go ahead. How many of you have a smartphone? Take them out. Take them out. Turn on your camera, and I'll give you a choice. You could aim it at this QR code. This is a QR code, okay? And it'll take you to a donation link. Or you can aim it at me and I'll start taking clothing off, okay? So that's my blackmail.
Please aim it at the screen.
Yeah. and oh my God, how many of you got a bazillion emails about donate to Warnock, donate to, Wisconsin, donate to Charlie, donate to Val, and I hate that. I get them too. But look, the reason why I'm not a good candidate is this part right here, like asking people for money. Like, I don't have that gene that lets me shamelessly plug myself. It's a little better if it's for other people, but this cycle, 22, national Democratic groups, if you compare it to 2018, national Democratic groups put in $58 million into Florida in 2018. This year they put in $1.2 million. And how many of you might live with a NPA or a Republican? It's okay. Like my son, who just turned legal voting age, registered as an NPA. So we started getting all of those evil mailers, right? And look, we're hoping in 24 to maybe help 50 candidates get going. That's $1,000, and we want to be able to buy the system. So 50,000. Hopefully we do more. We can do data ops and do more. One mailer can cost $60,000. We're totally playing like checkers when the other side is playing three-dimensional chess, and a lot of it, unfortunately, is money. So if you can make a donation, please do. If you prefer to write a check or think about it, we're going to give the information. It'll go out in the newsletter. We could give you envelopes are costly. So we created little slips with the mailing address and who to make the check out to if you'd like. But keep those phones out Next slide. This doesn't cost you anything. If you want to sign up for our mail list, click on this link. 1 mail a week at most. Normally I do a Tuesday newsletter with what's going on. When you get there, name, first name, last name, email address. Next. That's our website, we can skip that. If you want to become a member, that takes you to a Google form, you fill it out, our dues are $20 a year. If you pay now, you're good through 23. Again, we'll kind of click through, we're taking up a lot of time. You'll get this info, but we would love to have new members. Next. If you really want to knock doors, we'll send you that info. I do not want to take away from our volunteers. Our DECs need volunteers too. So this is like postgraduate canvassing. You know, act locally. If that's not enough, come help us too. Next. Anyone want to run in 24? Anyone know someone who wants to run? Anyone know someone who doesn't know yet that they want to run, but would make a great school board member? Like, seriously, like, it's different when you make the decision in May to file and the election is in August, but it's different if people who are experienced and can help you out can work with you for a year and a half before the election. So if you know someone, let us know, okay? Next month you talk to someone, let us know. And I think that's it. So I think there are microphones. No, I stole a microphone. But if you have questions, I'll give the microphone back. I'll step over here. I know we went way over too, so I apologize. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a retired educator from New York, and I was a member of my union, of course, and I was a building rep as well. And I remember throughout all the elections for school board members, we were involved. I'm talking about the teachers, so you made no mention at all whatsoever of any connection you have or allowed to have, I don't know, maybe not, with unions, teachers' unions in Florida who could do a lot of this work, a lot of this volunteering, and as well as, you know, canvassing and et cetera, phone call. I worked in phone banks, I canvassed, I did it all as a teacher. How come you don't look to the teachers for this work?
Can I be honest?
Yes.
So, no. I was a building rep at my school. I went up to Tallahassee with the AFL-CIO Working Family Lobby Corps. When I ran for office, I didn't even get a phone call because I was in a Republican district. When I talked to the union president, he was like, we didn't want to piss off the Republicans by supporting you, even though you weren't a union member. Now, a teachers union represents teachers. It doesn't represent public education. 95% of the time, the Venn diagrams overlap. But we are such a weak state, right to work state, that the legislature has kept the unions on a leash because they just threatened to do away with payroll deduction for union dues. On a call, we work with the union, FEA. We were on weekly calls with them. And when a lot of bad legislation was going down, testing, don't say gay, they kind of withheld their voice because they're hoping to get a little more money for teacher salaries. And they didn't want to get threatened with the no payroll deduction bill because it gets filed every year. So did they get more money? Well, the budget went up 4.96% for public education. The overall budget went up 10.4%. So we didn't even get a full slice of a larger pie. Here's the other thing. Take a guess on how much the Florida Teachers Union president makes per year. $400,000. If he loses that job, he goes back to Brevard County to teach high school music for 50 grand a year. I'm all about motivation. So they could be awesome partners, but there's danger to them, and I think they hold back a lot. And I'm a union guy. My wife is a school counselor. She's a union rep. I'm not anti-union. I feel bad every time I say that. Sorry. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Well, there's a whole bunch of questions in here. How do you feel about gerrymandering as far as it comes into effect when you're looking for school board candidates? And also, how can we educate the people who do register as NPAs and let them know that since Florida is still a closed state, they can't vote in the primaries. So they're losing all that ability to influence elections. And I must confess that I have never voted for a school board candidate simply because there's nothing about them, there's no publication about what they do or what they think or anything like that. You don't know anything at all about the school board candidates because no one ever puts it out there. So we don't vote for them.
So for your first part, it's kind of funny. I don't think gerrymandering affected school board candidates. Each county is really radically different on how school boards are organized. Some, they're all, like, everyone in the county, like Polk County, Sarasota County, everyone in the county can vote on every school board member. So you can't gerrymander. Other counties, there are individual districts, but I'm not sure that we lost a race because the county gerrymandered the lines. And to your kind of second point, NPAs can vote in the primary because the primary election has nonpartisan races and referendums. But when we say, NPAs are increasing because I think they just hate the all the political stuff. I can't say politicization today. I don't know. And they want to be left alone. They don't want the phone calls. They don't want people shouting at them. So we found that a middle-of-the-road message will reach them if we get it in front of enough people. Polk County, 4 years ago, 2018, elected an openly lesbian school board member, former science teacher. She ran in August, she lost to the guy who self-reported felony. If you look at the turnout in Polk County, if you added every single Democrat who turned out, every single NPA who turned out, Sarah Fortney had 2,000 more votes than all the Dems and NPAs combined. But we didn't get enough Dems and NPAs to the polls. So that's what we're here for, but we need the money to educate people, to send out flyers, to generate slate cards for the election to let you know who the candidates are and why you should vote for them. Yes, ma'am.
To the point about not having information about candidates, and that goes for the judicial recertifications as well. The State League of Women Voters and your local chapter puts out a voter's guide, vote411.org, and they get information on every candidate from the top down, and you can get that information online. So if you're looking for judicial or school board information next time, make sure you check out League of Women Voters, vote411.org.
And I know that a lot of the local DECs got information out. I don't know the details of the DECs represented here, but I see a lot of head shaking. So, you know, but then the DECs need money to get it out. You know, and mailing it takes time. Having volunteers to drop it off takes time and volunteers. Excuse me. I should give you the mic. So I don't go.
Thanks, hi. The Republican Party has made it a priority to elect people at the local level, starting with dog catcher, going all the way up. And school board, I can't imagine a local that is more important overall for everybody. And we're not getting, from what I'm hearing you say, the support that you need from the Florida Democratic Party. The idea that you have to pay $800 in order to get a list of the voters that are more likely to go for you is an insult to the people who are volunteering and working their butts off. It seems to me that the DECs need to do something about that and to make it very clear that that's not acceptable.
Yes, ma'am. And here's the thing, like, when you say FDP needs to do something, I'm a president of a FDP chartered statewide caucus, so that's on me. And that's on other, you know, DEC chairs, and there's a great organization, the Chairs Association, and there's the Small County Caucus, and a lot of people have been speaking up about this. But look, it's been, what, 25 years getting to this point in Florida? It's gonna take 25 years to get back. Hopefully not that long, but we gotta start. And here's the thing, you know, I can't look out through the window and look for the cavalry to come. We're it, the people in this room, we're the cavalry. We're the ones who have to make the change. And whether FDP is resistant, then we gotta be persistent. That rhymed.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trevor Roberts, and I'm the vice chair of the Democratic Party in Lake County. I'm also a village resident. Don't get here all the time because I have a lot of commitments, but I wanted to speak directly to some of the things you were saying. So yes, we had heard that the candidates had problems getting access to van. So what we did in Lake County is we gave them access to van. They didn't pay a penny. We gave them access. Van is vote builder, same thing. We talk about it. These things, they get ingrained in your mind as if you're saying Kleenex. So we did a lot of things. We did data mining for our candidates. We helped. Our problem in Lake County is, despite that, we're still a 60-40 county. Most of the independents break Republican. We did over 16,000 texts. We did 2 different voicemail calls that cost us $1,000 a piece. We spent $40,000 on billboards. We included both municipal candidates and school board candidates on our website, which is lakedemocrats.com. So anybody that's in Lake County can go there. I managed the website, so I know it was up there. We made sure that we had changes. We gave information to the candidates. We shifted as the redistricting came in and helped those candidates out. And I know that my colleagues here at Sumter County did the same. And in fact, Bob has been extremely involved in reaching out. I was at Florida Blue in July as well. And there are problems at the state level, but the problem all stems from money. They started 2 years ago, Manny Diaz took over the Florida Democratic Party, and we were like $1.8 million deficit. So he had to raise money just to pay the bills from the previous election in 2020. So yeah, it's kind of tough that he's got to charge a candidate for that, but let's say a local candidate might have a better chance to raise that money than some big dollar donor that's giving money for a Lake County or Sumter County school board candidate. Unfortunately, part of the other problem is when you have 60-40 distribution of how the votes tend to go, no matter how hard the candidate works, it disincentivizes candidates to spend their time and money that way. So we have done what I do personally, because I'm chair of the candidate committee in Lake County, is we have prioritized municipal county elections to try to get some Democrats working on our behalf at the local level. So we have 14 municipalities in Lake County. I didn't know this before I started doing this, 9 of which will have elections in 2023. So I suppose this has been said, but it bears repeating, that the Republicans passed a law that all of you that had a vote by mail ballot request on file goes away at the end of this year. So you don't have one for all intents and purposes. So Lake County has told us that they intend to send something out and notify everybody, but we don't know when, we don't know how much, we don't know who they're going to contact, because they don't know yet. So we are meeting on Monday to try to figure out how do we reach out to everybody, because we're like everybody else, we're at a money deficit. You know, just doing a texting campaign takes a lot of money. Just doing a voicemail campaign takes a lot of money. Much less printing, like my precinct, 505, which is up by Spanish Springs. We reached out to all 630 Democrats. Well, it cost us $600 to do the printing. We had 15 people to walk to everybody's doorstep and put the data out there so that people would show up. And then we had a hurricane and we had about 20 people. So we had $600 to get 20 people there to hear the message of the candidates for the local area. So it is money. It's money for them, and it's money for all of the candidates. And, you know, we had a great candidate here in Sumter County, Ash Marlock. Thank you for running, Ash. We appreciate it. And so I wanted to just speak to some of your concerns. It's the small county DECs, we're medium county. We're doing things that maybe the FDP doesn't know. We're handing them out access to data because we know that that's a problem. So I just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing. We're all struggling at the dollar. We're all struggling for the volunteers. And anything y'all can do to step up and help one of these people, whether it's Lake County or Sumter County, please do that. Please do that.
And thank you for what you do. As we've gone around the state, it's the red county DECs who are doing the great job and turning out Democrats. It's the counties like Hillsborough or Orange, you know, ironically, or Miami-Dade, where the blue counties are the ones that aren't turning out Dems. The red counties are way overperforming. So y'all in the villages and all these DECs, y'all are doing it right. So, no, I know. Everything I said was not a criticism of anyone in this room. I normally need to give that blanket thing. I think Mike's given us the hook. We're gonna hang out till the end of the meeting, come talk with us. We'll stay here all day. I will sneak a peek at the soccer score though. So, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Stephanie. We appreciate it. Very interesting talk. Okay, before you leave, please stop up and pick these up. Okay, time to renew, you save 10% if you do this online. So it's close to the end of the year. We have open board positions, looking to make a difference. Please stop by, see Marcia, see Sue Blaylock. We have officer and director roles open and volunteers. Please move to the next one, thank you. We're looking for diverse skill sets, anything could be. Don't think that you can't contribute. It could be computer skills, could be managing projects, finance, PowerPoint, could be anything like that. Also, Norm Davis was delivering for 15 years to the food shelf. We're looking for someone to take that over. Okay, the board elections are happening. We're taking names for those. Today for the bylaws, I need to announce the members of the nominating committee, and that's Sue Blaylock, she's in the back, and Marcia, she's up front. Wanda Smith-Currents, I think she's out of state. Sharon Chiodo, she's here somewhere, and Sylvia Basmer is here also, she's in the back selling t-shirts. So thanks for your contribution to doing that, folks. We appreciate it. Next steps, the committee will be taking, once they'll be conducting interviews, select a candidate for each office. March, there'll be an election, and April, the new officer will take over. This is a good time to talk about the state of the club. This, I don't know if you know this, everybody here, but this meeting is our most important deliverable that this board does. This is the most important thing we do. There's a lot of other important things, but this is the number one thing. That's why we used to get 400 people here, but COVID kind of shut all that off, and then we used Zoom and mechanisms like that to keep everyone engaged. But that was, it's important to do that. This is a visible, tangible interaction. When we're shut down from COVID, people were saying, when can we get back together face to face? We've had positive results despite COVID challenges. And like I said, the meetings on the Zoom during COVID and post-COVID. When I came on board, I tried to keep it simple. I just had 3 goals that I could keep track of. Keep you informed, keep you engaged, and keep you coming back. Those are still noble goals going forward. And we also need to engage new members, grow the club. That's key, that's huge. And collaborate with our Tri-County Young groups. Trevor talked about that. There's a lot of, there's a lot of groups out there that we could do better at connecting with. Keep you informed, that's this meeting. Our media channels, information, when we get it on legislation, current issues, and links, like I just mentioned, to our Dem family groups, Liberal Independent Ladies, Democratic Women's Club, our Tri-County folks. Keep you engaged, give you awareness of local causes. That's important here because we are the villages. And keeping you aware that we can, who we contribute to, food shelf, rental assistance, local schools, outreach and inclusion, DNO, Marcia runs that. Contact new Dems, that's through welcome letters, parties, breakfasts, and lunches, just to keep everyone engaged. And keep you coming back. Guest speakers like today, and also we try to keep interesting, relevant speakers coming in to speak to you. We explore new ideas for ad hoc and regular scheduled events. It could be cart rallies, it could be something like breakfast that Sue sets up, just ad hoc. It could be let's just get together and do something. And then know this, growing this club provides an inclusive atmosphere. That's people to keep you coming back. If you feel safe, and there's a lot of us, there's more of us, and we're aware of each other, we'll keep coming back. I use 3, like I said, I like to keep things simple. I use 3 tenets to deliver those goals during my watch. And it's work smarter, not harder. That comes from being in private sector and also being in IT. Don't do dumb things. I like that one. And then make things better on my watch. Everyone should do that. Work smarter, not harder. We've invested in technology and implemented that. Part of it is, being able to give these meetings over Zoom, and also provide us flexibility for changing conditions fast. It gives us an agile type of atmosphere. Protect our brand. This was going to be my work smarter, not harder slide, but then when I put these bullet items down there, I said, that protect our brand and good governance. So, we're a business, follow good business practices, think before acting. I have a problem with that sometimes. Respect our membership, respect our volunteers. Separate the club from personal. Avoid controversial positions. Think about it before you say something. That's, especially with the media, it's important. And we're a lifestyle club. We work to protect that distinction. And make things better, explore ways to market our brand, to expand us, trying ways to reach Denims new to the villages. Andy's been involved a lot with that, especially south of 44. And develop operational continuity. That, for you folks that come from private sector, that's called cross-training. A good example of that is Dennis is running the projector today. That usually would be Rick, but Rick couldn't be here. And then bring on dedicated leadership. We have we've got our leadership drive on right now. And build our process, expertise, infrastructure for events. When we participate, say, a good example of that is Val Deming. We coordinated with Sumter DEC to actually to be able to react quickly to bringing her on board. That was and all of that, if you're going to do something more than once, you should probably figure out a way to make it repeatable. And what I want to do is every organization develops personality over time. This one's no different. To stay vibrant, to grow, you need new ideas, new eyes, new visions, and ways to solve problems. To start that renewal, this will be my last time hosting this meeting as your president. I'm going to be stepping aside, handing the gavel to Diane Foley. We've had challenges, we've had successes over the past couple of years. We owe those successes to you, the members, the volunteers, and the board of directors. I want to thank a couple of past presidents who helped me out when I was doing this, Chris Stanley and Bob Jansen, for advice or to avoid pitfalls. Thanks to the board, past and current, over the past 2 years. Amy Jenkins, Heather Rabinowitz, Shirley Shantz, Ellen Dugan, and Sue Dublin, all past members. Thank you. Current board members, Dennis and Diane Foley, Verna Bernersky, Eric Lipsitz, Sue Blaylock, Marcia Shearer, Jerry Van Leuven, and Andy Kleiman. I feel like them folks up at the Academy Awards. And our technology team. Andy leads that along with Rick Dawson, Mike Conaffey. You'll see Mike at every meeting recording. Phyllis Archibald and Wanda Smith Kearns. These folks are key to delivering this meeting. You don't see Wanda and you don't see Phyllis, but they're here, especially when you're doing Zooms. Thanks to the nominating committee, Sue, Sharon, Marcia, Sylvia, and Wanda. That's a heck of a commitment. And thanks to all you members who contribute your time, your effort, and your ideas that make this better. And a million thanks to the volunteers who show up every day, every month at this meeting. They set up and they tear it down. They're like the roadies. And when they come back next month and do it again, this meeting wouldn't happen without them. And that's It's been an honor and privilege to serve. I'm one of you. You're my people. I'm proud to be with you. Thanks for being a member of the club. Thanks for your support. Without you, there is no Villages Democratic Club. And thank you for making us the largest Democratic club in the state of Florida. That said, everyone, please welcome Diane Foley. Madam President, your gavel.
Don't go. Are you sure this isn't one of those dumb things you were talking about? Yeah. We also heard it was your birthday today. To you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear President, happy birthday to you. It's a cake.
Thank you, Diane, and thanks all of you. It's, I know that you have so many of these, it just seems like another day, but it's great that you're here to help me celebrate. Thank you.
He's going to be here to help me for about a year, and thank God for that. Because I'm kind of like a deer in the headlights right now. So, the reason I joined this club was because I didn't have anybody to talk to. And I thought, well, all these Democrats, there's got to be somebody. So I came to a few meetings and I didn't talk to anybody. I'm kind of shy. And then my husband says to me, he says, they need somebody to do data entry. And I said, yeah, I can do that. And before I knew it, I was vice president of membership. And then I made friends. And so what I'd like to say in this social club that we have is that this is an opportunity to build a community. This is an opportunity to meet people that you can trust, that you can relate to, that believe the things that you do. And if you see the guy coming up the row and you say, you know his name and you can say hi to him, that's gonna mean the world. It's a community and we need to build it. So that's my goal for this year. It's an off-election year. We have an opportunity to get to know each other really well. That's what I would like to happen. Good luck to me.